My name is Phil Taggart, and you are watching The Creative Community.
Welcome to the Creative Community. I'm your host, David Starkey, and my guest this time is poet Phil Taggart. Phil, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here, not only because you're a longtime friend of the past 25 years, a great poet, but you also are the person down in Ventura with whhom we collaborate at Caps Media. So whenever folks see a show that has a different backdrop, it's probably taped in Ventura. You know, I want to focus mostly on your poetry when we're talking today, Phil, and I'm always curious how people got started in this craft that you've studied for so many decades.
Well, I did write poetry when I was in high school.
Right, and where was that?
South Whittier,
Okay.
Sierra High School, doesn't exist anymore. And I started writing then, and I actually got published in the local, or not the local, the high school literary magazine,
Right.
which was just a staple fold thing.
Right. And that made a big difference?
It kept it in my mind, you know, and I was writing different things as I was getting older. I tried to write comedy bits, because my cousin and I, we did radio stuff together.
Right.
And we were really good with our comedy bits.
Yeah. Like what sort of stuff would you guys be doing?
Oh, okay. Well, like one that I did that I remember. A lot of it I don't remember. One time he was working at a radio station, KDON in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I would just walk in, talk to him, and I would bumble in, and I would be the guy who lost all of his money downstairs, right. And wanting to know where the bus station was.
Right. So yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain element of like that kind of humor, I think, in some of your poems too, like the Mothra poems.
Yeah.
So when you're working in radio, talk me through how you get to Ventura, where you're a fixture for many years now.
Well, I went to Northern California, worked in radio up there,
Right.
and then I moved. My ex-wife wanted to live by a cheap beach town, and this was the late 70s, and Ventura was a cheap beach town.
Right,
You know, you could actually live there.
Right.
You can't now.
Right.
And so we lived there. I looked into the radio stations. They told me my voice wasn't deep enough.
Oh, interesting.
And then I found the community television station.
Uh-huh.
And how I got into poetry, how that worked at poetry is I found Art City towards the end of, they moved in the late 70s, and I kind of found my way there.
No, but for people who don't know what Art City is, can you give it
Art City is a sculpture place. It's and it's an outside sculpture place. It's pretty much set up as the European ones are. It's outside, and all the artists are working together in a group.
Right.
And so so that's where I met them.
So folks can wander in and pick out a piece of sculpture they love and
Absolutely,
buy it.
yeah.
And there's a 5x5x5 event that takes place there. So a lot of things happening.
Yeah, you were talking about the edgy earlier, being
Right.
at Ventura.
Right.
And yeah, we have performance artists there, and we had a very good performance poetry bit at that point. In fact, one of the guys, after he moved out of Ventura, won national slams, and so we had that going on.
Right.
And we got to take chances. And then at one point, I discovered I was doing poetry at this place called the Insomniac back in '91.
Okay.
And I've actually been doing poetry readings ever since then.
Yeah, for sure.
And then so when I ran into some language poets, but then I ran into the Arcade series with Jackson Wheeler, and David Oliveira was involved in it at that point.
Now these are two friends of ours who Jackson's passed, but David lives in Cambodia.
Well, they're both very, very good poets.
Really, for sure.
And became friends with them. And then after the Insomniac, I found Cafe Voltaire.
Yeah.
And did a lot of readings there for quite a while.
Right.
And that's when that was kind of a high point, I think.
Yeah. Well, you still have a lot of high points. I mean, you're still out there hosting, and I mean, one of the things I think that has made you so beloved by so many people is you really encourage young people to do their, read their work and get out there and make it happen.
Yeah, and I've kind of learned, there's this woman who's teaching, had a workshop, River Talk, Joan's last name.
Oh, Joan Raymond.
Joan Raymond, thank you. It's just starting to disappear. Joan Raymond had this wonderful workshop where she could work with people like a light verse person like Joyce Lemaire's,
okay.
and also kind of other poets, and work with Kim Young about her really edgy poems about growing up in San Fernando Valley. And then you had Scott Struman, who had mental health issues, and able to guide his reading in. So she basically could guide people, but not step on them. Let them have their own voice.
Right, which is the hallmark of a great teacher, for sure.
And so I've learned that, and I've not always done it perfectly, but I kept that in the back of my mind.
We've gone almost 7 minutes here, and we haven't heard a poem from you yet. So let's hear something that you'd like to read.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple things out of Rick Sings.
Okay.
Because I thought that this is a poem. This is about the 10th anniversary of Rick Sings,
Okay.
And I actually got a review about 3 months ago.
Okay.
And so I figured that's pretty good for 10 years to still get reviews from them.
So Rick was your brother.
Rick was my brother, and what was happening? He suffered from mental illness. He was suffering from schizophrenia, and I was the only family member that was able to take care of him. And he was living close by me in Ventura for a long time. I think I lived with him longer than anybody. And so it was very frustrating because you don't necessarily get well with schizophrenia. You just cope. I mean, it's changing now, but it didn't at that point. And I had to get used to, and it was very frustrating. And so what I did is I took my frustration and my heartbreak dealing with him and trying to, and I just started writing about it. I found out that he was in my poems anyway. I just needed to pull him out and put them in the book.
Yeah. And
so what I did is I had a photography, video, and poetry thing. I would take Rick's pictures all the time.
Right.
And I had video of him talking. And so that helped me quite a bit. I figured Rick was probably the most photographed mentally ill homeless guy in Ventura, Ventura County. Yeah. I think he was right up there.
Yeah. Well, and a great muse for you. Let's hear a couple of these poems then.
Okay, this is one. It's kind of an introduction to me. It's called Last Night. The fear woke me, a shadow, raving, blackout, numb, frozen at the edge, afraid to, but wanting to jump. I have never been comfortable with sanity. My mother, her body vacant, electroshock medicated. My brother listens to voices on a mattress in the corner of a carport. The fear is sometimes a comfort, and inevitably it welcomes me home. And here's another one from this book. Now the problem with Rick is that he's a little guy, and he was always being taken advantage of.
Right.
People would beat him up and take his money. And so we were able to get him into housing, and the way we did that is he never touched money. We'd get like $20 a week.
Right.
And so we found a place for him to stay. But even then, people would try to move in on him. And so, because, you have a choice. You can live outside or you can crash in Rick's apartment.
Right.
And so they would quite often they'd break in. And so I had to deal with stuff, but some of it was very hard to deal with people. Because, Rick was a nice guy. This one's called How Do You Say No? Rick looks guilty as he opens his door. I know someone's here and not supposed to be. The Wizard of Oz flickers on a bad set, bleeding color and lighting the room. Letha, wrapped in a blanket, huddles on the floor, face swollen, dark blood-dried arcs prominent over her eyes. The notice to stay out is posted on the door, my name printed at the bottom. This is not Kansas. Auntie M's promise of warmth and safety is long gone. This is home. People crashing in Rick's room has been the reason for many evictions. He says, she got beat up last night. I thought she'd feel better if she stayed here.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is for people. Rick Sing's book I would highly recommend picking up online, however they can get it. But it's a book that's full of compassion. Like I said, it's also full of frustration. Homelessness is one of our great, problems, especially here in California. Did you learn anything from all those years with Rick that you would say are these are things that can make it a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't see a trend for it getting better because I think with the population growing and all the rents going up to an absurd amount, it's going to be hard for people to live here. Right. And it's frustrating. But what I learned with Rick, I got to know his friends because I would walk around with him all the time. So I kind of knew the homeless and mentally ill people. I knew them. Mm-hmm. And they would come up and talk to me and never ask me for money. In fact, I remember David Oliveira was visited one time, and we were walking down the street. We're going to walking down to Main Street from the Avenue, and he said, "How come all the homeless people come up and talk to you? What's that about?" Right. And that's because they're Rick's friends. Right. And so I learned a lot about that community, and it helps me. It helps my empathy. I understand what's going on with them when I see it.
Yeah. So Rick passed, and that's a different environment for you now, right? I would assume.
Yeah, he passed in 2017. Right. He passed at 60, so he lived a pretty long time for himself. But yeah, it has changed. For a long time, it was like I could see him. I thought I could see him or someone like him in the parks, right? Because whenever I was driving around, when he was alive, I was looking for him.
Right. Well, it's a heavy book. There's moments of levity. At least there's moments of hope and light shining through, I think. And then just in the poem that you just read, there's a lot of moments of kindness between strangers and people who don't know each other maybe that well.
Yeah, Rick was a kind man, and he also was he was very funny. He would tell jokes in his way, and then when he hit the punchline, he'd say the punchline, and then he'd laugh. Right. That's how you knew it was a joke. And sometimes they made sense, sometimes they didn't. Right. But he was having a good time. Yeah.
Let's hear from Walking the Dog in a Time of Rage. This is your most recent collection, published by our friend Christopher Buckley's press. Yeah, Chris Buckley.
I've been very lucky with Santa Barbara authors. David Oliveira published my first book, and then my middle book was published by Art Life. And my last book was published by Christopher Buckley again, along with Rick Sing's. So this one, I'll start this one. This book, I put it together. I was kind of frustrated at the time because of, politics and the anger that was growing with that, and the anger that was growing with society as a whole. And it was kind of frightening, and so I thought, well, I think I'll write some poems about it. And so this is where these came from. Okay. This one's called Walking the Dog in a Time of Rage, which is
the
title poem. The minivan screams by, horn blaring, angry fist out the window. I must have done something wrong. Rage has become our discourse, our answer, anger, our voice, sputtering away in the ether, on the highways, in the ballot box. We're driving past a park, not a very big one. Only one entrance, one parking lot. We're both approaching. I wonder if he's going to the farmer's market too. My friends online nip at each other. Clever quips bite. I pass his vehicle, drive to the other side of the parking lot, as far away as possible. The anger swirls inside. We don't know what to do. A white man in his 40s gets out of the van, sets his dachshund down, pulls a baseball bat from the back seat, looks at me. Marcia and I go look for Brussels sprouts, but part of me wants to stay. I'm angry too. Walk over to him. Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Celebrate this rage, consecrate it with our blood on the ground flowing. We find yellow squash instead. On the other side of the park, there's the man, his dachshund, his baseball bat.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was, and that happened, just real close to my house.
I'd love to hear at least one more poem from this book, and then I want to talk a little bit about the other things that you do before we circle back to your maybe some newer poems.
Okay. I'll do this one. Go see Cal. Cal Worthington. If you live in California, you've heard of Cal Worthington.
Right.
But he was a very interesting guy, actually. He was really was part of the Western movement that happened after World War II.
Right.
And what a guy.
He loved to sell cars, yeah.
He loved to sell cars. So let's go see Cal. And here's an epigraph. Old jalopy's on the blink, go see Cal. It's later than you think, go see Cal. Cal Worthington TV commercial. He calls back to us through the ether across the somatic divide. You too can have this American dream. Buy this car, drive this asphalt. I will stand upon my head to sell a car. I will stand upon my head till my ears are turning red. Go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal. Cal drifts west across the desert from the heartland to the promised one. Heat-shimmering visions of Aztlan, Angeline, Surf City. Giant blue pyramids and single-family tract homes. He touched us in this holy land, sealed in concrete with bikinis, and once upon a time tattooed across dreamy blue raster abundance, complete with palm trees, shimmering, swaying, no swearing, with his dog, Spot.
No swearing is good.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful poem. I'm wondering about your influences, Phil, as you were learning to write poetry back, in the day, and then as you've gone along, who are the people who've kind of shaped your voice, would you say?
Well, actually, I read Charles Olson.
Okay.
Was one of the first people I really read. And I read him. And of course, Emily, who could not,
Right.
she's our seer.
Okay.
And one of the best poets we've ever had. I've read a lot of poetry. Allen Ginsberg, of course. I got to meet him. And let's see who else. There's a lot of them.
What's interesting because Olson and Ginsberg are the poet of the big poem. Olson especially, Maximus poems, and Emily Dickinson writes these little short crystalline things. Your poems tend to be shorter.
Yeah.
Where does that the Olson-Ginsberg influence come in, would you say?
Kind of the idea of language.
Uh-huh.
For many years I was doing language poetry, and the idea of the modernist vision, Olson, with the trying to break down language,
Okay.
trying to bring language work. And I had the other part of it that helped me is that I talk with my brother all the time. And my brother, he spoke schizophrenia.
He had access to a different type of language.
He had a different language, which, because I was his brother, I understood what he was talking about most of the time.
Right.
And then there's television.
Right.
And I learned that that language, which is its own language. I mean, we teach it, we're writers, we get focused on that, but really it's a visual language. Like one of the things in my class, I tell the kids, watch a commercial, turn off the audio, tell me what it's about. Because that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
It's almost under.
Yeah. But we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about your work with CAPS Media. You're talking about kids and teaching. You mentioned that earlier, coming into Ventura, being involved with that scene. tell me how that's kind of influenced what you've done as an artist, and also just kind of your attitude towards community, I think.
Well, you know, I worked in media for a long time, 40 years maybe, and but then I got involved with community television, and then and they wanted to start a TV class for the high school, and I was the one who ended up teaching it. And
how long ago was this?
It's been close to 10 years now.
Wow.
And so I teach it out of a TV station, which is rather unique, which is unfortunate, but it is unique. And it's taught me that how important community is, because I've used my old, you know, my old reporter skills, and I was able to use that in the class, and I can also teach the actual how do you work. It's a how to do class,
Right.
and I get to teach them things that I love to teach them. Like right now, we're looking at AI, but how we're learning AI is we're looking at political stuff. Like for instance, there's this new thing that I was just reading. You know, they have the fact checkers.
Right.
Well, there's this new category in fact checking, and it is what's it called? Altered image, because that's what's happening now. And so here are the people that are running the stuff are talking about they're faking it.
Right.
They're writing it, photoshopping it, or AIing it in, and I want them to understand about that. But then we have a lot of fun too. We do parades. We do all the graduations for high school.
You do the creative community.
And we do the creative community. And this is what I'm doing. I do this so that they learn how to work with an outside producer, because you know how difficult they can be, and I want them to know how they work with that. Well, because they're they're going to go in the real world.
Yeah.
The real world, you have to know how to work with people.
Well, there's a lot of fun notes. So we're here in our studio in Santa Barbara. There are two individuals behind the cameras. When we are there in Ventura, there's just a mob of people always working. You know, they're inside the booth. They're in the studio. They're also in other parts of the building doing other things like having the podcast class. But you know, I also think that while students are good at learning things like what you're teaching, they also bring something themselves, right? I mean, they're very digitally native to a lot of probably what the things that you're teaching.
Yeah, well, everyone is native to what I'm teaching. You know, I mean, it's sort of like they know more. You know, like I found I've got two kids that for fun they play with this thing called Blender, which is a very non-user friendly program. But they know it.
Right.
You know, they're already working on it. I mean, they edit videos on their phones,
Right.
And so it's and I would imagine a lot of kids outside of my class are doing that too.
Right.
And so just trying to get them to figure out things like, in fact, today I'm going to go have a meeting with my at El Camino High School about digital citizenship, because that has to be something that's taught now.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's we just have about 5 minutes left. I want to circle back now to your poems, just maybe some newer poems that you've been writing. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been on your plate poetically?
Well, I write environmental stuff, and I write about, and as I'm getting older, I write about me getting older.
That was a good topic, yeah.
And then other things, so I'll just read a couple. But this one is, actually this is a political one. I find that my voice isn't really that important anymore as an old person, but I can write poems. Mm-hmm. And this one is, it's called The Room is Pink. And it's a ekphrastic poem from a photo I saw in the LA Times. It's an Israeli soldier stands in an apartment in Gaza during the problems that they're having there. And I looked at the picture, I thought it was a stage one because of how everyone was standing. But I realized it was a little girl's room he was standing in. Mm. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do a ekphrastic thing. The room is pink. Bullets, holes, broken windows, ransacked, deserted. Soldier balances a Galileo assault rifle on his knee. Machined solid steel, increased structural integrity. Rose and pink, painted walls, mirror frame, This rifle clearly based on the AK design. Two-stage trigger, clean and smooth, 35 round magazine. Soldier invades his pink room, extra magazines belted around his stomach, mirrors smashed, lavender window curtains pulled from the wall. A little girl's room, closet and dresser left open, abandoned. On the bed, 2 dolls.
Really poignant last image. That's one of your great strengths as a poet, I think, is finding those images that really speak and call out to the listener, the reader. We have time for one more. Could you?
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to leave. One of the things this is something I wrote before Rick passed, but I finished it after Rick passed. Okay. It's called Dreamtime in the 101. And it's about us. And it's got an epigraph. Let's take a trip down Whittier Boulevard, the Midnighters. That's where we were. That's where we grew up. Just past the 405 going south, a Neo-Dharma bum-stickered hybrid SUV passes us. Last night, I dream of Rick. In the upstairs room on the left, a hidden room, always there. Passing vivid, the Ford Theater, I saw the Pogues there, graffiti crosses, knocked down road signs. In this dream, Rick is leaving. I gather up what is needed. Our paths are so close, brothers. We cross into Hollywood, the Knickerbocker, the Beetle Capitol, more crosses, the Shangri Lodge, Destiny Inn, the crush of downtown. We are on parallel paths, like moving sidewalks, drawn close, we touch, then drift apart. Gronk and Spring Street, J-Town, Azatlan, Brew 102, and beautiful, beautiful bridges. Rick, Rampart, and Tommy's. I wave. The car hurtles down past the 605, South Whittier, and on. Rick is observed in distance. He waves back. Goodbye.
Wow. We just have about 45 seconds left, so I'm asking you to do something really quick. Santa Barbara, Ventura, especially the poetry scenes, what's your thumbnail version of how they relate, how they're different?
I think the thing with the presently is because we've got such a growing population, we don't come back and see each other too often,
right,
where we used to.
Right.
You know, I remember when David Oliveira would show up just about every week, along with Jackson down in LA, and same thing with Enid Osborne and a few others. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go up there and read, and sort of like we were different, but we were tied together. And I think we still are, but they're different scenes because there's different people, mm-hmm, in which will always be the case. Yeah. But I feel very fortunate to be a part of that and being a part of both scenes. It really is lovely.
Yeah, those are kind of great words to end on. I feel the same way. I would agree. Well, Phil Taggart, it has been a great pleasure. I will see you probably again very soon. But it's great to talk to you on TV. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, David.
The Creative Community is a co-production of TVSB here in Santa Barbara and Caps Media in Ventura. I'm your host, David Starkey, and we'll see you next time.